Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from my frontier. I hope the week's gone well. The dollar's on track for its best week this year, David Inglis tweeted earlier this morning. And the dollar index edged up 0.1% to 93.211. We're back below that sort of magic number of mine, which is 93.50. But we're still close to the 6-week high of 93.666 reached yesterday. The index has risen 1.1% this week. Rose on renewed hopes for US tax reform, as well as comments from the Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen that stressed the need for gradual interest rate hikes and put the hike at the end of the year back on the table. 7th of August, a little preemptively, I was sort of looking for this rally to unfold, and I said then, I think the rebound will gather strength because just about everyone has been lulled into a sense of security. The dollar, which was deep in its end zone, has just thrown a Hail Mary pass, which is set to make up a lot of ground. The Muthaiga club, to which I belong and rather enjoy, has this fantastic library, and I've been trawling through it. And the latest author who I've been reading again is Elmore Leonard, and he really is a sort of hard-bitten, urban detective literature. It's pacey, it's great to read, and you can lie on your sofa and really enjoy yourself, as I have been doing. And then I came across this quote of his: "I spent most of my dough on booze, broads, and boats, and the rest I wasted." I thought that's about right, isn't it? Before heading out on a foreign assignment, make sure you're prepared, says the BBC's Academy. And they're prepared enough to have a helicopter there. I like this yachts at port in Saint-Tropez. Apparently there's an app where you can hire a very fabulous yacht on a daily charge. Take a look at that article, it's linked. This should be everywhere, and I couldn't agree more, especially here in Kenya and Africa, where people drive very carelessly on the road and cause enormous numbers of fatalities. Political reflections: the referendum on independence planned for Sunday in Catalonia, Spain, is about more than a people's wish for self-government. That is Javier Solana. It threatens the very democracy and rule of law that Spain insisted upon after the decades-long dictatorship of General Francisco Franco came to an end in 1975. I think it's a very big deal, and it strikes me that the Catalonians seem very determined to take this to its conclusion, and obviously the numbers are with them. Clear and blue for the National Day. Beijing has its ducks in a row, Xi Jinping tweeted, and indeed they do, and that's why I wrote that piece at the end of August, China Rising. Bloomberg View has an interesting piece about great power relations are entering a period of greater danger and tension, they're saying. American foreign policy has reached a historic inflection point, and here's the surprise. It has very little to do with the all-consuming presidency and controversies of Donald Trump. For roughly 25 years after the Cold War, one of the dominant themes of US policy was the effort to globalize the liberal international order that had initially taken hold in the West after World War II. Washington hoped to accomplish this by integrating the system's potential challenges, namely Russia and China, so deeply into it that they would no longer have any desire to disrupt it. The goal was, by means of economic and diplomatic inducement, to bring all the world's major powers into a system in which they would be satisfied, and yet the US and its values would still reign supreme. This was a heady ambition. Yet that project has now unmistakably reached a dead end. The new goal of US strategy won't be to integrate rival great powers into a truly global world order, but to defend the existing international system, successful yet incomplete as it is, against their depredations. In short, the goal of achieving a fully integrated world is no longer achievable today. Successfully defending the existing international order that the US has successfully constructed and led over the years will be the challenge and accomplishment enough. And I was talking about this and saying, one of the collateral consequences of what has happened is to send President Putin into the ready embrace of President Xi Jinping. I was saying Washington has metasized into an epicenter of risk Donald Trump refers, and talk of a unipolar US-dominated world have largely evaporated. President Putin refused to be rolled over by Victoria Nuland's inspired color revolution in the Ukraine, and he drew a line in the sand. And one of the collateral consequences of that was to send Putin into the ready embrace of Xi Jinping. And I was saying, in fact, far from being a unipolar world, we have entered a bipolar or even a tripolar world, US, China, and Russia. Russia's economy, of course, means that it's punching significantly above its weight. Raise your hand if you quashed globalism, the photographers Demir Sagoji, it's from Getty newspapers, Getty Images, and speaks to the point I was making about the ready embrace. Uganda's parliament headlines The Daily Show. This is Trevor Noah, who I watch religiously, I have to admit, and I think is one of the best critiques of the real time. Take a look at the first 2 minutes. This is all about Uganda's 73-year-old president who has a plan to rule forever, says The Economist. This is a generational cause, says Bobi Wine back in his studio after a long day in Parliament. In June, the singer and self-styled ghetto president won a sensational victory in a parliamentary by-election. Now he is the spokesman for Uganda's frustrated youth in a struggle to stop Yoweri Museveni, the actual president, from extending his rule. All the power has been packed into the presidency. He says we want to take it back to the people. And saying the state is taking no chances. 3/4 of Ugandans want the age limit to stay, according to a survey in January by Afrobarometer, but this hasn't really stopped the president before. So the old man with a hat will carry on, at once the guarantor of stability and the greatest threat to it. The FT is speaking about that similarly and saying recently the leaders of Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, Cameroon, and the DR Congo have all altered laws or used the courts to enable them to stay in office longer than allowed by the Constitution. In 1986, Museveni famously said the problem of Africa and Uganda in particular is not the people, but the leaders who want to overstay in power. Irony. There is so much going on in this photo from the Ugandan Parliament, and that's bearded genius. You've got to watch the video as well. The Economist's front page is how it's a dynamic Emmanuel Macron and a diminished Angela Merkel, pointing to a new balance of power in Europe. Tune in to CBS this morning at 8 a.m. to see my discussion on the need for tax reform that promotes economic opportunities for all Americans. That's Stephen Mnuchin. Saudi Arabia lifting the driving ban is little more than a glitzy distraction from its continued geopolitical problems, says Robert Fisk. He's correct. Japan's inflation has hit a 2-year high, according to Bloomberg. UK 10-year bond yields, about which I was very bearish and then got a bit disappointed with the lack of action. And now look what's happened. 10-year bond yield jumps to 1.4%, 8-month high, and up nearly 50 basis points in 3 weeks. Pretty remarkable, says Jamie at Reuters. That goes back to something I wrote in September 2016, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And look at this long-term chart of the UK 10-year bond yield. And I was saying, central banks have suppressed volatility, therefore in real terms, Investors are now holding bigger positions at these currently artificially suppressed levels. If volatility spikes, positions are going to be reduced en masse. Or to put it another way, and to borrow the lyrics from the Eagles' song Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice, and she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the nightmare, we are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. And I was saying then, what is clear, we're at the fag end of this party, and they've continued to be in the fag end months and years, but we're really in it now. Bank of America technology, US 10-year yield, this is also probing higher. Dollar yen, where are we now? 122.42. I think you buy the dollar on retracements for a move back to 115, maybe even 120. Currency markets, euro dollar 118.02, dollar index 93.10, Japanese yen 112.42, Swiss franc 0.97, the pound 134.16, Australian dollar is at 0.7845, India rupee 65.345, South Korean won 1144.94, Rial 318.22, Egyptian pound 17.644. South African rand has improved a little bit to 13.5016 and has fallen practically in a straight line from 13 to above 1360, and we've had a little bit of a bounce here. Dollar index last trading, when I checked, 93.10, came back off that key pivot level I've been speaking about, 93.50, but it feels corrective ahead of another jump over that level. Euro dollar, I think Catalonia is going to take the euro lower to around the 114.50 level. Hef and his pajamas are gone, leaving the suits to save Playboy, with Hefner's death this week at 91. Rizvi Traverse, the private equity firm that's been trying to reinvent Playboy, loses the man who embodied the company's extravagant image. The dilemma now is whether to build off the vintage appeal of the Hef brand with his smoking jacket and playmate girlfriends, or use his passing as a way to make Playboy stand for something else. The brand is so tied to it, and the lifestyle he led and his role in the public eye carried Pizzullo, author of Bachelors and Bunnies, The Sexual Politics of Playboy, said. And then Len Stein, a public relations consultant and a former employee at the company, agrees and suggests nude women remain the company's most recognizable asset. You don't say. He suggested virtual reality would be a logical area of growth for the company. Playboy has some equity in that niche. When it's ready, he said, sex sells. Put up a photograph of Hugh Hefner and Marilyn Monroe. Take you to the commodity markets. Let's have a look at what gold is doing, 1288.50, sort of kind of moving back to that 1300 level, and obviously will hurdle it if anything kicks off on the peninsula. Oil, we've come back a little bit. We're at $51.71 on WTI, and I think it can go up to $55.50. Let's move on to Africa. Zimbabwe's Mugabe likens his rivals to Judas for seeking his retirement. Others are like those that Jesus spoke about during his Last Supper, when he said, "Some of you eating with me here shall betray me." The Judas Iscariot, they are here among us, Mugabe said. They want to cause leadership change, for the president to step down. I did not grab power, I was chosen by the people. It's the people's thrones. I don't want with it, he said to loud cheers from some party members. ZANU-PF is divided into two factions. One faction is led by his wife. Mugabe, without giving evidence, accused some people of manipulating the currency to trigger inflation and cause panic buying. There's a shortage of foreign exchange. It's forced some businesses to buy US dollars on the black market. And And I wrote about this in July 2016, and it's been like a Groundhog Day, or what is it, slow motion crash. And I said countries like Zimbabwe feel like they're right at the edge, an edge that was described thus by Hunter S. Thompson. There is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. Dollars have disappeared from banks and are now traded on the street and black market at a premium of up to 50%. The incoming president of Angola said no one is so rich and powerful that they cannot be punished, and no one is so poor that they cannot be protected. And then, according to Zainada MZ, who follows the Lucifer country, she says the new president, João Lourenço, has appointed his cabinet. Most of the ministers and governors come from the Dos Santos era, only have changed their portfolio. This story caught my attention. Congo naval boats battle rebels on Lake Tanganyika. The rebels try to attack the city from the lake. They have motorized pirogues, said a witness in Uvira. South African oil shares up 8.57% this year. Dollar rand, take a look at that move from 13 up to 13.60, and then move at a slight improvement. Egyptian pound 17.6440. Nigeria dismisses the Biafra separatist drive as a storm in a teacup, according to the FT. Don't think it is. I think it's more than that. Nigerian oil shares up 31.83% so far this year. Ghana Stock Exchange up 35.24% so far this year. Rwanda's economic growth slowed to 4% year on year in the second quarter of 2017. Kenya, there will be no polls on October the 26th. It will be a normal day, said NASA, the opposition coalition. Kenyan opposition quit talks over the proposed law changes. Kenya's main opposition walked out of negotiations on how a rerun of last month's annulled presidential election will be managed, citing plans by the ruling party to make drastic changes to the country's electoral laws. The ruling party is taking a strategy that they can amend the electoral law through Parliament. Proposed changes to the law include enabling of commissioners to appoint a new chairman and reducing the number of people required to make a quorum, according to a copy of the bill provided by government spokesman Eric Karaithi's office. The law is going to create a lame duck commission, James Orengo said. We're left with no alternative but to walk out of this meeting. Yields on Kenya's 2024 Eurobonds have risen for a fourth day on Thursday, highest in almost 2 months. Stock market's barely trading, so the economy is grinding to a halt. UNGA reported full year 2017 earnings per share crashed 93.503% lower. Turnover was up 3%. But essentially, profit for the year from continuing operations was 86.66 million versus 511.476 million previous time. Earnings per share 28 cents a share versus 4 shillings and 31 cents a share last time. Dividend, they're paying a dividend of 1 shilling a share. Sales volume, according to their commentary, was up 1.8%. Revenue increased by 3%, wheat was up 10%, porridge up 6%, maize down 2%, operating profit declined by 71.7%. They are saying the Kenyan business environment was characterized by maize supply challenges caused by the regional drought and crop disease impact. Ugandan subsidiary continued to be faced by a challenging business environment, leading to an operating loss for the third consecutive year. Bad debt provisions, local currency depreciation against the dollar significantly weakened performance. Board has reached a decision to cease milling operations, necessitating the reporting of the entity as a discontinuing operation. Bakery business was negatively impacted by credit challenges facing the retail sector, resulting in an exit from most Nakumatt stores, where it had taken bakery implants and counters. Goodwill impairment was 151 million shilling. have reached an agreement with minority shareholders to purchase the entire 48% non-controlling interest in Enns Valley Bakery Limited. They have commissioned a state-of-the-art fish feed plant, and they've increased their grain storage capacity. These were sharply weaker year-on-year earnings. Obviously, you can see that from those headline numbers I read out. But they have a very muscular cash and cash equivalents position, which is worth nearly 22 shillings and 64 cents a share. Net asset value must also be well north of the $21.95 million market cap. Panic buying has lifted tea prices to a 7-month high at the auction in Mombasa. State Bank of Mauritius no longer sees value in buying Chase Bank lock, stock and barrel. It's an interview from Bloomberg. S&BM had targeted Chase to acquire a license in Kenya, but that objective has now been achieved with the purchase of Fidelity. The bank no longer sees value in buying Chase lock, stock and barrel. We're still looking at portfolio acquisitions, both on the asset side and the liability sides. There's a lot on the table. I just need to pick and choose. Nigeria will emerge bigger than South Africa in the next 20 to 24 years. We will create a hub with either Nigeria or Ghana as the hub into West Africa. Nairobi all share tumbled 0.99% lower yesterday, but remains to the good 22.53% so far this year. The NSE 20 is lagging the all share, but that's up 16.65% so far this year. Painting donkeys and party colours for political reasons inflicts suffering to donkeys. We strongly condemn this practice. And here, finally, let me leave you with this photograph of a motorist cruising along the old Red Hill Road, Limuru, in 1965. The Limuru residents will attest that things have changed big time.